Good evening, Canterbury. Welcome to Newsmakers and our first panel edition for 2010. It's a pleasure to introduce our guests, ECAN Regional Councillor Eugenie Sage, Hurunui Mayor Garry Jackson, and Fendalton Waimari Community Board Member Jamie Gough. Thank you very much for joining us. Happy New Year.
Cheers, mate. Happy New Year, mate.
It's not too late to say Happy New Year, is it?
It's not.
In fact, I think the Chinese New Year starts today, tomorrow.
Is it?
I think so. Year of the Tiger. Yes. And he needs a good year too, doesn't he?
Yeah, you're right.
We are going to begin with the rather messy matter of the Mackenzie Basin, the mega plan for cubicle dairying of over 17,000 cows. On Wednesday, the government announced that given the scale of public anxiety, a board of inquiry will consider the effluent discharge consent applications. Was this a sensible decision by Minister Smith, Eugenie?
Yes, I think given the 5,000 odd public submissions, it will make it more challenging looking at the cumulative effects of the dairy shed, the cubicle discharges, plus the effects of land use intensification and irrigation that's currently before commissioners. But the government has sensibly decided to appoint 3 of the commissioners that are on the Environment Canterbury panel to the Board of Inquiry.
This is all part of the new powers, is it, under the changes?
No, those powers have been in the Act for some time.
Right.
The ability to call in applications which have got potentially international or national importance and raise quite substantial issues.
It wouldn't be done very often, would that be true?
No, it has not been done very often.
Right. Does it create a higher hurdle for the applicants to clear when a board of inquiry is established as opposed to the normal regional council hearing process?
No, the same considerations apply in the Act, and the issue though is just in the Mackenzie Basin, those fantastic outwash plains, the rivers, the water quality is high. We've had conversions to or increased beef cattle grazing, so there has been some effects already of more intensive land use with algal mats showing up in the Killen ponds and elsewhere. But you've got high quality streams, the effects of significantly intensifying the land use. The ECAN advice to the panel that's hearing the Upper Waitaki water take and use applications is that that's going to be very risky for water quality in rivers and streams. And also Lake Benmore functions as a giant sink at the end of the catchment. Do we want to see Benmore becoming another Rotorua Lakes?
Sure. Garry, what's your take on this enormous project?
I think, Mike, the call-in was, like Eugenie said, is exactly the right thing to do. I think the sheer scale of the consent application, the issues around it, the resources needed to process it, I think it's the right call.
Do you have reservations with the thrust to the project?
I have a view from a personal viewpoint with regard to the shed farming, all of that issue. Yeah. And I'd have to say I'm not particularly convinced that turning the open plains and the pristine environment of the Mackenzie into that scale and that style of dairy farming is exactly the right thing to do. I'm a passionate advocate for the need for land use development and the growing of the economy of New Zealand around our land-based and farming industries, but in an appropriate way, balanced with protecting our other assets in terms of tourism and so on. And I'm not sure personally that this particular plan meets all of those requirements.
What do you think, Jamie?
Well, my day-to-day business life in the central city and community board life stops about Memorial Ave, so it's not really in my day-to-day sort of working. But I think I do tend to agree. There needs to be minimum standards imposed, and I think my take on it is that it's a step in the right direction. It's something that has to be done.
Do you think the proliferation of dairying is compatible with the Mackenzie? Should the Mackenzie be rewritten? Should its landscape be rewritten as dairyland?
Well, I think the 5,000 odd submissions highlighted the public concern about that. The basin is outstanding. The regional landscape study that Environment Canterbury's just done confirms that. As an earlier landscape study said, it's the Mackenzie Basin that's been painted, argued over for more than many other landscapes. Yeah. And also because the water quality is high, because it's been low impact farming in the past, and you've got thin layers of soil, very porous, and Lake Benmore it's not got the heavier soils that we've seen dairying happen on in other areas.
I note that ECAN Chair Alec Neil was quoted in the press yesterday is saying that he was relieved that the government has taken the matter off ECAN's hands, which I thought was disarmingly honest of Alec. Eugenie?
No, I think there were 4 commissioners, highly qualified, that were appointed to hear the Upper Waitaki applications. They decided that these other ones should be notified. They would have considered them. The hearings would have started in March. We're into about week 11 or 12 of the water take and use applications. It's a quite extensive hearing process. It's been very well organised. And those 3 of those same 4 commissioners will be on the Board of Inquiry. So I had confidence in them making a good decision.
Right.
And the change has been in Judge Borthwick being appointed to replace the current chair to provide that judicial role, and an extra water quality expert being appointed.
I know this is sort of a bit of a guessing game, my next question, but if you were a betting person, Garry, do you think what is proposed with these 17,000 cows and cubicles, do you think it will proceed?
If I was a betting man, I don't think it will proceed in the format with which they were originally planning it. That's my gut feel for it.
Now, Jamie?
Yeah, I think we'll have to be tinkered with.
But not completely scuppered.
I don't think scuppered. I think there's merit in it. Look, I think it's very idealistic to imagine a world where it just doesn't exist. I think that we have to balance reality with a wee bit of idealisms, but I just hope that they find a happy middle ground, which is politics.
Well, it is indeed, the art of compromise. Yes. Do you think it will proceed?
I think that decision rests with the Board of Inquiry for the discharge and the...
You're being very proper today, Eugenie, aren't you? You're being
well,
very
it's a decision that's made by the commissioners.
Yes.
I think it does show the problems with plans not being very agile, that nobody anticipated dairy farming occurring in the Mackenzie 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And so the plans haven't got the right regime in place. Jamie's point about standards. There are strong objectives and policies, and how those are interpreted and how the provisions of the Act are interpreted remains to be seen. And there's an awful lot of scientific evidence that's being put in front of the commissioners and will be put in front of the Board of Inquiry.
Okay. Well, we'll watch it roll on over, the next year or so before any final decisions are made by the board. We'll take a break. Coming up, Air New Zealand's big week, weighty passengers and stomach stapling. Do stay with us.